Amivi's last 4 birthdays were on work days. On those days, she would wake up, chase after motorcycles, and a long static sound from the projector in the classroom she taught. She taught film to 13-year-olds. Amivi was determined this birthday wouldn't be like the past ones. But nothing was happening. She would love to visit the royal palaces of Abomey, Gonvier, and Benin's vibrant markets. But her CFA franc wouldn't take her anywhere, except from her house to work. So, when she heard 2 women whispering about the Museum of Borrowed Futures over watery drinks, she leaned in as much as she could, without rushing to the women as she would have loved to do. They said it is a place for borrowed people, situated in a corner between her work and house. People go there to borrow someone's life, just for a day. It seemed so unbelievable to Amivi. Surely, it's a scam or a lie. Who would do such? But the women's voices were too serious for that, except they were insane. Amivi went about her day, but the name, the Museum of Borrowed Futures, stayed with her like a fingerprint pressed against her spine. She chose to walk back home after work, ignoring that the real truth was that she was hoping to find the museum. It took her hours, but she found it at night, after hours of walking. After the rain began and ended twice. No signs, no plague, just a plain green door tucked between a closed tailor shop and a cracked wall that smelled like smoke. She almost walked past it, would have, if not for the brass knocker in the shape of an open eye. When she touched it, the door opened on its own. The inside was silent, not abandoned, not magical, just still. Floorboards creaked. A soft light glowed overhead. There were no displays, no exhibits, just a desk. And behind it, a woman in a neatly pressed dress, her hands folded, eyes patient. "We have only one life available," she said. Amivi opened her mouth to ask how it worked, but the woman added gently, "It was volunteered." Caught between excitement and fear, Amivi turned to the door, planning to run out. "By a popular filmmaker," the lady ended. Amivi paused. She could simply stride out of the door, or she could live out her biggest fantasy of being a filmmaker. And for once, not be the rejected filmmaker, the film graduate that was never chosen, the grants she never won, the scripts no one read. This could be her biggest moment, or her largest nightmare. Amivi turned back to the lady, smiling and saying, "How does this work?" The lady smiled back and pulled out a large folder from the air. It was so sudden and unexpected that it shook Amivi. The contract was 12 pages long. The details were surreal, but clear. You live someone else's life for 24 hours. All senses, memories, and context will transfer temporarily. No interaction with your real life is permitted. If the borrowed life ends before time is up, by choice or accident, your original self is lost. That was the last line of the contract. Amivi signed anyway. She was tired of her life never asking her for permission in the first place. For once, she thought, something is about me. Soon, she was in the ritual chamber, and the curator placed 2 fingers on her forehead. "You may feel a lurch," she said. "I already do," Amivi whispered. The room dimmed, and then light, real light, clean, golden. Amivi woke in silk sheets. A skyline blinked beyond floor-length glass. A tray of champagne sat untouched by her bedside. She sat up, different hands, different weights. Floor-to-ceiling windows flooded the penthouse in gold. Below, Cotonou pulsed like a living billboard, taxis like ants, billboards like flags, people moving with purpose. Amivi was in awe. Her borrowed skin fit perfectly. Her fingers were manicured. Her reflection blinked from a mirror taller than her old classroom wall. She stepped into the walk-in closet. Each outfit was a statement. Silk, Ankara, velvet, names she had only seen in Vogue Africa. She chose black with gold trim, subtle power. When she emerged, a young man stood waiting. "Miss Mecca," he said, "the car is ready." Amivi had chosen a perfect day to borrow Utete's life. It was a day filled with events. Cameras followed her like orbiting satellites at film events. Actors Amivi had once queued in line to meet hugged her. They called her legendary. They called her brilliant. They called her home. It was everything Amivi ever wanted and more. She was seen, praised, envied until she started to notice things. The air shifted. Her driver, a man named Jules, gripped the wheel too tight. He flinched when someone brushed the car. He asked to confirm each destination twice. Our assistant, a woman with flawless braids and unreadable eyes, kept whispering behind closed doors, always switching languages Amivi didn't fully catch. Then, after she returned from a film conference, she found Utete's journal. The initial pages, mundane, film schedules, script notes, costume adjustments. Then one page, rushed handwriting, smudged ink. Amivi froze. The museum said it's legal. I didn't think I'd be this scared. It took a while for the truth to beat into Amivi's chest. Utete hadn't offered her life out of generosity. She had offered it because she didn't want to be there when the end came. And now, Amivi was trapped in the middle of a target. She tried to leave, stood before the mirror, called out, waited for the curator's voice. The door. The ritual light as per the instructions to meet the people from the museum. Nothing. Just a reflection. And the clock ticking louder than it should. She checked the time. She had hours to escape not being killed by Utete's would-be murderer. Hours before her own life may end, if she wasn't careful. She forced herself to be calm when Utete's assistant knocked to announce that they had to get ready for a gala. The gala was held at a rooftop venue, wrapped in lights and secrets. People toasted Utete like royalty. She got a new title. A Pan-African icon bowed before her. She smiled, nodded, laughed when expected. But her eyes darted around her, watching. Try the mallet, the woman said, handing her a glass. From a private cellar, only for you. Amivi hesitated, but a camera turned to face her. Guests watched. She lifted the glass, sipped, smiled. Moments later, the floor tilted. The lights blurred. Her fingers went numb, and the glass dropped from her hand. She collapsed as voices gasped and blurred. Amivi forced herself to her feet, trying to crawl across the marble floor. Her stomach turned itself inside out. Her head spun. She whispered Utete's name like a plea. She felt a cloth pressed to her mouth. A metal flask emptied down her throat. The taste, salt and ashes. Charcoal. A voice muttered, "Salt, you are lucky." She heaved again, felt everything burn its way out. The person steadied her until she could breathe and her eyes could walk. Her savior was a janitor. Back at the penthouse, the skyline bled into sunrise. It wasn't done yet. She had hours, maybe less. Her legs barely stood still. Her reflection looked pale and older. She moved through the apartment like a stranger, opening drawers, pressing walls, searching for something Utete might have left behind. She found something in Utete's office. It was a safe behind a sculpture of rusted frame reels. She unlocked it. It contained a black flash drive and a single folded note. She inserted the flash drive into the console. The projector lights up. Static. Then image. It was Utete. If someone's watching this, then I didn't make it through the night. And you only got this life because I didn't want it anymore. Her voice was calm, almost tired. I built everything. The films, the image, the empire. But I lost people along the way. Maybe I lost myself too. Someone's trying to kill me. I don't know who. But I know why they would. And maybe they are right. Amivi's eyes narrowed. Her thoughts began to race. She stared at the screen and her brain started to work. She opened the folder tucked beside the drive. 4 names. 4 motives. 1. Komi Fadika. The mentee. Brilliant. Rejected and humiliated life on air after Utete dismissed his film. Disappeared afterward. Resurfaced bitter and bold. 2. Reimagined. The producer. Accused of siphoning project funds. Publicly removed from all future collaborations. No charges, no closure. 3. Farouk Diallo. The ex-lover. Collaborator turned critic. Rumors of betrayal. Never reconciled. 4. Fanuel Fano Oak. The obsessive fan. Former intern. Found breaking into Utete's editing suit. Let go. Warned, then forgotten. Amivi wiped sweat from her temple. She had 6 hours left to survive a life that wasn't hers, and someone clearly meant to finish what they started. She began sending messages, one by one, requesting private meetings. No explanations, just times, locations, direct, intimate. She had met them alone. She needed answers before the museum opened again, or her body gave out. But just as she sent the final message, her phone buzzed. A message flashed across the screen. It read, "You weren't supposed to survive." It almost scared Amivi out of her plans. Amivi's meeting was with Farouk Diallo, the ex-lover, in a private screening room. He arrived late, still dressed like the argument never ended. Dark shades, darker mood. "You've got nerve calling me," he said, barely sitting. Amivi didn't flinch. She stated, "You were hot. You made threats. You must be glad to see me being poisoned." "Everyone makes threats. Doesn't mean I followed through." Amivi slided her phone across the table. A voice recording played. Farouk yelling. Utete shouting back. A door slamming. "I wanted you ruined," Farouk said. "Not dead." He left, angrier than he arrived. It was the kind of anger someone wrongly convicted carries. Amivi met with Fanwell, Utete's fan, at 9:44 p.m. They were at a public park bench. He brought tulips. Quoted her first acceptance speech. Had tears in his eyes. "I was your biggest follower," he whispered. Amivi's stomach curled. It was creepy, very creepy, but not dangerous. He was not her would-be mother. Amivi's next meeting was with the producer, Rain. Rain lit a cigarette like it was a sermon. "I always wanted to kill you," she said. "But looking at you now, seeing how troubled and tired you look, I think it's best to keep you alive." She blew smoke across Amivi's face before leaving without another word. Amivi was almost going crazy. She was supposed to meet Komi on a rooftop bar. He came late, giving her thoughts too much room to run. Who hated Utete enough to kill her? What is the person doing? Perhaps, watching her right now, she had bitten her nails to an extent when Komi joined her, smiling. Well, it's nice to see the person who taught me to dream." The words were enough to show Amivi this would be a would-be murderer. His eyes were cold despite his soft words. "You are angry," she said. "I was humiliated," he corrected. "You laughed at my film in front of a global audience." She nodded, carefully, looking around to find an escape route. Suddenly, he pulled the blade from under his coat. Amivi bolted. She ran from the rooftop and through the stairs to the busy street. Cotonou was still alive. She stumbled through the crowd. Komi followed, ranting, shouting things about betrayal, about truth, about being erased. People turned and screamed, calling for help until security whistled, moved in and tackled Komi. The time was 10:23 p.m. The sky began to lighten. One body borrowed, one truth revealed. Less than 40 minutes left. The last thing Amivi remembered was the hum of market radios blending with the sound of her own heartbeats. Her breath caught like it had to ask permission. She closed her eyes, and she was back when she opened them again. The chamber glowed faintly around her, the charcoal runes pulsing low like a heartbeat. The museum was silent. The curator sat beside her, holding a cloth to her temple. "You made it back," she said, with the same polite calm as before. Amivi tried to speak. She couldn't. The woman helped her sit up, guiding her back into the ritual circle. Amivi looked at her, eyes clouded with fatigue and clarity both. As she remembered Utete, she gave up everything, she whispered, and still wasn't free. The curator placed 2 fingers on her forehead again. The room dimmed. The hum grew stronger, and the borrowed world released her. The next day, Amivi walked through her neighborhood as the sky turned soft and blue. Children raced with bags of bread. A tailor swept his shop front. Someone called her name and waved. She waved back. She noticed things now. The voice of a student humming across the road. The smell of orange peel in the sun. A student ran to her at school, asking if she did anything special on her birthday. Amivi smiling. I remembered what I already had. They blinked, then laughed, because it sounded like something a teacher would say when they didn't want to answer. But she wasn't avoiding the truth. She had found it. That night, As she marked essays and swatted mosquitoes, she opened a blank page in her notebook and wrote one line across the top. Then she turned the page and began again.